Hi, we're going to talk about what you can eat if you're trying to lose weight with PCOS. I see a lot of, I'm going to go ahead and say it, lame posts with laundry lists of things you can't eat if you have PCOS. And most of the time that kind of puts us in a negative headspace, a place of deprivation. And a lot of times it's not necessarily true because food intolerances vary from person to person, even if you have PCOS. Food intolerances aren't like everyone with PCOS has X food intolerance. So today I'm going to talk about a real simple way to select foods to eat while you're trying to lose weight with PCOS. And in fact, this is just a good way to eat even if you're not trying to lose weight, if you're lean PCOS or you're done with your weight loss journey. So no matter what dietary style you select for PCOS, to manage your PCOS, and there are several different types that will work, you're basically coming down to how you're choosing your proteins, carbs, and fats. The problem is that we don't eat proteins, carbs, and fats. We eat foods. So when you start talking in these really technical terms, it sometimes can make you feel confused and a little bit overwhelmed when you're just trying to eat lunch, So let's break this down into like a really simple way. And I gotta tell you, when my coaching clients get really good at these 3 simple steps I'm about to show you, the weight tends to come off, it stays off, and they're not dieting and stressing and obsessing about food anymore. So if you can get really, really consistent with this over a long period of time, you probably aren't going to need to do much else for your nutrition. Believe it or not, trust me, believe in me. I'm telling you, this is awesome. All right, so you just take your round circular plate and let's divide it in half and then in a quarter on one side. So the first half of your plate, fill it up with vegetables, especially leafy greens, but you want to get a variety of colors in. That is step number 1. It's real simple. Step number 2, the second quarter of your plate, carbohydrates, and then the bottom quarter of your plate, lean proteins. All right, let's talk about the carbs because we all have questions about carbs with PCOS. So cutting your carbs dramatically is not necessarily something you have to do to lose weight with PCOS, but you do need to select what I call smart carbs. And those are going to be your intact, unrefined, or minimally processed carbohydrates. Think fruits and roots and intact grains. Now I'm going to give you 3 examples that you may not have thought of from this category. The first is sprouted grain bread. So if you've been missing bread or think that PCOS means you can never eat bread again, sprouted grain bread is a great choice for those of you that are not suffering from celiac disease. It does have gluten in it. If you're gluten intolerant, you still may tolerate sprouted grains well. Sometimes that is the case with people with a mild gluten intolerance. Celiac disease, though, that's a whole different thing. Sprouted grain breads also have a lot of fiber and protein, so they're gonna help when you digest the carbohydrate. It's going to raise your blood sugar level more slowly. The second one is bananas and other high carb or high sugar fruits. They really get a bad rap, and I don't see why. So it is totally okay to eat an appropriate serving size for your body size of a higher carb fruit in conjunction with proteins and fats. That higher carb fruit, the general concern is that if you're eating it by itself, it's gonna spike your blood sugar. And that might be the case, but in the recommendations I'm giving you, you're also going to be eating proteins and fats at every meal, and that is going to slow your gastric emptying time, your digestion basically, and it's going to prevent that blood sugar spike that causes concern. So higher carb fruits, your tropical fruits like bananas and mangoes, those can be used as your carbohydrate source in any meal. And the third one that I think kind of gives you a little bit more freedom is the bean-based pastas. So Banza is one here in the US, but these are pastas made out of chickpeas or lentils or black beans. They're higher in fiber, they have some protein in them, And they, again, because of the fiber and protein, they're going to digest slower than traditional pastas. It's minimally processed. It's a good option so that you don't feel like you have to give up bread and pasta for the rest of your life just because you have PCOS. All right, let's move on to protein. Okay, so protein is basically really important for everyone because it helps you, it's basically the building blocks of your body. There has been some research that higher protein diets, even up to 40% of your calories in people with PCOS, that they respond well to that. You could go into counting macros if you want to, but a real simple way to kind of make sure that you're just getting enough protein in every meal in general is to just follow that 1/4 of your meal, the quarter of your plate, is occupied by a lean protein source. And so let's talk some lean protein sources that often don't get mentioned or forgotten. One of my favorites is pork loin. Pork loin is awesome for anyone who's into slow cooking, like using a crock pot or an Instapot. It's really great for batch cooking in the freezer. You can shred it, you can roast it, you can marinate it and put it on the grill. It's a really versatile piece of meat that I think often gets overlooked kind of like in meal planning and food blogs in general. So definitely check out some pork loin recipes because they're really great for batch cooking if that's your thing. Another option for our vegetarians and for people that aren't vegetarian as well are lentils, especially canned lentils. So I recommend canned lentils if you have a FODMAP intolerance. So if you have problems with FODMAPs or you just get gassy when you eat legumes, they tend to be lower in the offending carbohydrates that they cause gas and indigestion in some people when they eat legumes. But lentils cook easily. They're awesome in a curry, and they're inexpensive, and they're a vegetarian source of protein. Lentils also contain some carbohydrates, so if I was trying to lose weight with PCOS, I would probably think of my lentils as my protein and my carbohydrate. So one serving of lentils covers kind of both bases. And the third one is grass-fed beef. So red meat in general, you know, has been kind of depopularized and considered unhealthy. But one option for those of you that love red meat is a grass-fed beef. What they find is grass-fed animals have a different fat composition in their body. So when a cow is fed grass, they have more of the healthy fats and less of the unhealthy fats for your heart. So that, you know, if you're concerned about your heart health, which you should be if you have PCOS because we're at risk for heart disease, I would invest in eating grass-fed beef when you do choose to eat beef. It is more expensive, but I think that is one place where you should put your food dollars. All right, now moving on to fats. So we have a protein, we have a carb, we have a vegetable. Now we need to cook them and flavor them up, and that's where fats are awesome. So healthy fats can be used as your salad dressing. They can be used as your topping. Hello, avocados. And they also can be used for cooking your food in. One excellent cooking oil is avocado oil. It is relatively tasteless. It's a good substitute in most cases for vegetable oil, which is a less healthy fat for your heart. So avocado oil has a high smoke point, so it's good for cooking at high temperatures. And again, it's tasteless. So if you mix it into like a cake mix or something where you don't really want like an olive oil taste, it's gonna do just fine. And the next is chia seeds. Chia seeds are a fat source, an omega-3 healthy fat source that also have a little bit of protein, so that's pretty cool. And you can create a pudding. They're great for breakfast, so throwing them in your smoothie or in overnight oats is going to help kind of make like a gelatinous sort of fluffier texture once they're soaked in water. And for those of you that kind of like the way that that works, kind of like a more of a pudding or a yogurt texture, that is a nice way to get it without adding a dairy product in if you're trying to avoid dairy. Number 3 on my fats list, kind of It seems common, but I want you to think about it for a second. It's olive oil. Good olive oil. Spend some money if you got it on good olive oil. Go ahead and Google, look at like what the best olive oils are available at your grocery store. Really taste test if you see what you like. A really nice olive oil is excellent for dressing your vegetables and your salads. You can even use it as like a little topping. A teaspoon of olive oil on top of something with some salt and pepper. Boom, you've got flavor and you've got that fat you need for your optimal PCOS meal. So, you know, maybe you can use a less expensive olive oil that's pure olive oil for some cooking or some other things that you do, but especially if you're just drizzling a little bit on, I would go ahead and invest, if you can, in the best quality olive oil that your budget will allow you to. Your taste buds will thank you. Okay, so those are the steps. I've got a link to a guide, a PDF guide, a free PDF guide of everything I just said, plus some more food recommendations. But what I really want you to do is just kind of walk into this way of thinking about your PCOS diet as focusing on what you can eat and celebrating those foods and experimenting with new foods that maybe you haven't tried before. Maybe you've not tried chia seeds. Maybe you haven't really spent any time cooking a pork loin, and now you're gonna look up some recipes. But there's tons and tons of healthy, delicious foods out there that are totally appropriate for a PCOS weight loss diet or a lean PCOS diet. So get your head out of that deprivation zone and start having fun with your food again, okay? Leave comments below if you have any healthy fat favorites, lean protein favorites, or smart carb favorites that you want to share with the community. I just gave you 9 of my top foods that I think kind of get kicked out of the PCOS nutrition zone a lot of times. But I would love to hear what your favorites are too in the comments below. Subscribe so that you can get more tips on how to thrive and live an awesome life in spite of your PCOS. And thank you for being here with me today.